السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أنبياء الله جميعا وعلى سيدهم وخاتمهم حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد، وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، والصفوة من أصحابه المنتجبين. والسلام على سيدنا ومولانا الإمام المهدي المنتظر، عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وسهل مخرجه وجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. This is part 2 of the session on understanding and explaining verse 34 in chapter 4 in Surah An-Nisa, the verse that has been nicknamed or so-called wife beating. We had part 1 and this is part 2. And we are doing this session and all these sessions, the previous ones, on the status of women in the Islamic tradition, because we really seek to change during the month of Ramadan. This holy month is the month of transformation, the month of changing. We change in this month. We seek change. We seek piety and righteousness. كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. So we reach the state of piety and righteousness and self-transformation and spiritual, moral, ethical, social transformation. And we really need to understand the position of Islam on women. Where does Islam stand? There is a lot of controversies, a lot of confusion, a lot of talks. Nowadays, not only the scholars and the jurists and the commentators of the Quran and professors of law comment on the position of women, even some people at TED Talk, some authors, some activists, some feminists, they discuss these issues. So where do we stand? And people ask, is this right or wrong? There is a lot of analysis, a lot of talks about women and their role in the society. So this is something important we have to discuss and we have to open up to. And I think that the month of Ramadan is the best season to speak about these subjects. Maybe men are going to have a better perspective, a better view, a better relationship with their wives, with their sisters, with their mothers, with their daughters, with women in general. A better attitude, a better behavior, a better respect, a better appreciation. And when men change, women are going to change too. Women learn from their husbands. Women are inspired by their husbands. So when the man deals better with his family, with his wife, that will force his wife to change too. Imam Ali alayhi salam has a beautiful saying. He says, فَدَارُوهُنَّ عَلَى كُلِّ حَالٍ وَأَحْسِنُوا لَهُنَّ الْمَقَالِ لَعَلَّهُنَّ يُحْسِنَّ الْفِعَالِ. Take care of them. Daruhun means tolerate, take care, respect them more at all conditions, at all circumstances. وَأَحْسِنُوا لَهُنَّ الْمَقَالِ. Speak good to them, maybe they will behave better. So when men change, women are going to change. And when men and women both change, the family is going to change. When the family changes, the society is going to change. This is how we begin. We intend to create trust and respect in the families between the husbands and the wives. Nowadays, the rate of separation, the rate of divorce, the rate of, I call it, disintegration of families is on the rise. Not only in non-Muslim countries, but in Muslim countries too. Go to Egypt, go to Lebanon, go to the Gulf states, go to Saudi Arabia, go to Iran, go to Pakistan, go to North Africa, go everywhere. The rate of divorce is staggering. The disintegration of family is the norm nowadays. Shouldn't we change these things? So let's go back to this verse. Verse where it says in chapter 4, وَاللَّاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ فَعِظُوهُنَّ وَاهْجِرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. As for those from whom you fear discord and animosity, nushuz, admonish them. This is the first step. Admonish them. Second step, then leave them in their beds. Third step, and strike them. Then strike them. If they obey you, فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. Seek not a way against them. So this is the wording. We said yesterday, or last night, there are three views here. Three views when it comes, excuse me, when it comes to dealing with women who have animosity, or they, according to the Quran, they go into the state of nushuz, they rise up. Now nushuz also has been interpreted in two ways. In this context, in this verse, not any nushuz. Nushuz in this verse, in verse 34 of chapter 4. Some jurists believe that nushuz is any arrogant behavior, arrogant disobedience, or any disobedience. An attitude of arrogance and disobedience is called nushuz. Others, however, say no. That is not the meaning. The meaning which permits a husband to strike his wife means here, in this context, it's a reference to the disloyalty, to betraying the values of the family, to not guarding their chastity, to having an immodest behavior with another person. This is what is meant in nushuz here. So there is a difference of understanding when it comes to nushuz. And I said that most of the traditional scholars, commentators, jurists, scholars in Islam, on both sides, believe that the verse speaks about striking them. Like Ibn Kathir, if you open his tafsir, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Ad-Dimashqi. I have the short version of it, the concise version, Mukhtasar. And Al-Qurtubi, Al-Razi, and many others. Their view is that there are three consecutive progressive sanctions or steps that one can take to safeguard his family from disintegrating. This is in case of emergency, when wars come to worse. The first step is فَعِظُوهُنَّ, admonish them, speak to them, counsel them. Try to remind them of their responsibilities. Try to tell them you are mothers, you are wives. You have to be a good role model for your kids. So maw'idah. We begin with the maw'idah. This is the basic thing. The second step is فَهْجِرُهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. leave them alone in their beds. Leave them in their beds. Abandon them. Don't share beds with them. That is the second step. By the way, before I go further, some women ask, how about men? If men are terrible and bad, if men do foolish things, does the wife have the right to go through these 3 steps to discipline her husband, to bring him back? Yes. Many scholars say, many, not all, many scholars, especially in the school of Ahlul Bayt, believe that a wife, if she is able to execute this discipline, then she must save her family from disintegration. And God gives her this authority to admonish her husband. The second step, not to share bed with him. The third one is to strike him. And now I'm going to come to the third one, striking, and tell you how it looks and what is the meaning of striking them. So don't share bed with them. Someone like Ibn Kathir al-Dimashqi, a Salafi Mufassir, he has an opinion which is really weird. He says when it comes to the second step, abandon them and don't share bed with them. He says, he's the only one who says that, not others. He says that you may have a relationship with your wife, but don't talk to her. لا يكلمها. Don't speak to her, but you may have a relationship with her. You may sleep with her, which doesn't make sense, which exacerbates the problem, which tells you that people like him believe that women are animals. They have no soul, no spirit, no value, no feelings, no emotions. So you can do whatever you want to do with her, use her, but without talking to her. Does not make sense. Okay? And then some people say the Prophet did this. He stayed away from his wives. In this famous verse in the Quran, in chapter 33, if you go to chapter 33, Ya ayyuhan nabi, chapter 33, Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 28. Ya ayyuhan nabi, qul li azwajika in kuntunna turidna al-hayata ad-dunya wa zinataha fata'alayna umatti'kunna wa usarrihkunna sarahan jamila. This has a story, long story. I don't have enough time to mention the whole story tonight. Okay? So let me just show you something in Sahih al-Bukhari. This is here, the books of Sahih. And this is Sahih al-Bukhari here. We come, Bab li zawjatika alayka haq. Your wife has a right upon you. It says, قال إلى رسول الله من نسائه عن أنس رضي الله عنه قال آلى رسول الله. آلى means stayed away. آلى على نفسه, he made a vow to stay away from his wives for 1 month. Why? Because there was a commotion in his house. And the one who started this commotion, Bukhari says on behalf of Umar ibn al-Khattab, it was the daughter of Umar ibn al-Khattab, Hafsa bint Umar, the wife of the Prophet, who started this commotion and this conflict in the house of the Prophet. And she enticed other women, other wives of the Prophet, to revolt, to rebel, to ask something extra above what they deserve, according to the Bukhari, according to the books of tafsir. So because of this commotion inside the house of the Prophet was upset. So he decided, because this was a sort of nushuz. Nushuz means disobedience, mutiny, rebellion. It happened in the house of the Prophet, and they mentioned their names. Even Ibn Kathir in his book, Ibn Kathir and Qurtubi and others, they mention the names of the wives. In the beginning, they say Aisha, Hafsa, Zainab, Sauda, such and such and such. And they count the wives. They are about 13. So the Prophet decided to stay away from them. آل رسول الله من نسائه شهرا وقعد في مشروبة له فنزل ل29. He stayed for 29 days in a mashrubah or mashrabah. Both of them are correct. Bukhari says mashrubah. Mashrubah means a room, upstairs room, غرفة, upstairs room. So he stayed in his room upstairs. Again, he repeats the hadith here. أن سلمة أخبرته. This is in Sahih al-Bukhari. This is Sahih al-Bukhari, chapter باب النكاح, chapter on marriage. إن سلمة أخبرته أن النبي حلف لا يدخل على بعض نسائه شهرا. He made a vow that he would stay away, he would not meet some of his wives for 1 month. Some of his wives. And then, but another story says, عن ابن عباس أصبحنا يوما ونساء النبي يبكين. The wives of the Prophet started to cry. عند كل امرأة منهن أهلها. Every wife of the Prophet brought her family there, and they were crying. Imagine 9 wives, 10 wives, 12. All of them are crying at once. فخرجت إلى المسجد فإذا هو ملآن من الناس. Ibn Abbas says, this is in Bukhari, Hadith 5203. He says, I went to the mosque. I found the mosque packed with people, full house. فجاء عمر بن الخطاب. Umar came. فصعد إلى النبي وهو في غرفة له. He went up to the Prophet. The room was upstairs, and the Prophet was in his room. فسلم فلم يجبه أحد ثم سلم فلم يجبه أحد ثم سلم فلم يجبه أحد. Umar did salam 3 times, nobody answered him. فناداه Umar called the Prophet. فدخل على النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فقال أطلقت نساءك? Did you divorce your wives? فقال لا. The Prophet said no. ولكن آليت منهن شهرا. I stayed away from them, made a vow to stay away from them for 1 month, to discipline them. This is here, Sahih al-Bukhari. And then, of course, the continuation of the story, I might have some other time to elaborate on it. Some other time. It's interesting. This is just part of the story. So Qurtubi says, if a man abandons his wife as a punishment or a discipline, it should not be more than 29 days or 1 month, because this is the sunnah, the tradition of the Prophet, according to the Sunni sources. Now we come to the third. The third, وَضْرِبُوهُنْ. Strike them. And striking here, almost all scholars, except very few, they say this is the last resort. And this is only to avoid divorce. And it should be non-painful, without pain, non-injurious. And it should be with a small object such as miswak. Miswak is this thin, small, flexible twig. So it is symbolic. It is symbolic. It's not really physical violence. This is what they say. They say it's not physical violence, okay? And it should not inflict any bodily damage or harm or injury. And it should be non-violence without leaving any marks. This is what most of the jurists, when they speak in their books of fiqh, law, and tafsir, and history, this is what they say. Okay? Now, can a wife does the same if he's doing something terrible? They say yes. In istata'at. If she is able physically to discipline him, to stop him, to curb his evil, his shameful acts, then she must do so. So that is the first opinion, my friends. We come to the second opinion. The second opinion of a group of commentators and jurists who are contemporary. None of them goes back to 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 300 years ago. Most of those commentators who speak about the second opinion from the Sunni tradition and the Shia tradition are contemporary. They say it's not about physical violence. It's not about physical hitting. Strike them does not mean hit them. وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ does not mean hitting them or striking them or even touching them. It means leave them alone and go your own way. And then they bring evidence from verses of the Quran where the Quran uses the verb ضَرَبَ, ضَرَبْتُمْ, ضَرَبَ. The Quran uses it to say either journeying in the land, ضربتم في الأرض, journeying in the land, or set out on a path. So this means that the husband, when he counsels his wife, admonishes her and it doesn't work, when he abandons her in bed and it does not work, she keeps doing that bad thing, then he should leave her and go. Leave her and go. I'd love to accept this opinion. I wish this is the meaning, really. It will save us a lot of headache, a lot of controversy. But I can't, you know, because I'm not convinced, because of 3 reasons. Reason number 1, Quran says, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. Here, this is Surah An-Nisa. Look at the verb. When you understand Arabic literature, وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, not اضربوا في الأرض. Had the Quran said وَضْرِبُوا, strike, we might say strike means striking in the land, traveling, leaving the house. But the Quran says وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ, strike them. Very obvious, very open, very easy to understand. وَضْرِبُوهُنَّ. So this is number 1, the wording of the Quran. Number 2, the hadith. The hadith, let me show you the hadith here of Bukhari here, 450. Bukhari comes, Bab ma yukrahu min dharb an-nisa. What is undesirable of striking women. It means we strike women. But what is undesirable you should not do is what? He says, وَقَوْلُهُ تَعَالَى وَضْرِبُهُنَّ أي ضربا غير مبرح. This is Bukhari. This is Sahih al-Bukhari. So Bukhari narrates a hadith from the Prophet that the striking should be non-injurious, non-painful. So there is striking then, but the strike should be moderate, not violent. Then the third evidence is, and also the Tirmidhi, if you come to Tirmidhi, 1766, yeah, it's here, 1766, this is Jami' al-Tirmidhi, فَاهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ, Jami' al-Tirmidhi, Bab, let me read the Bab, باب ما جاء في حق المرأة على زوجها. The right of women upon their husbands is that he strikes them. There is a contradiction between the title of the bab, the chapter, and the content. The chapter says the right of the wives upon their husbands, but the content says, read it with me please, okay, that of course the Prophet in the beginning says, ألا واستوصوا بالنساء خيرا, I am advising you to treat them well. Okay, استوصوا بالنساء فإنما هن عوان عندكم ليس تملكون منهن شيئا. Be careful, you don't own them, you don't own women. إلا أن يأتين بفاحشة مبينة, unless they commit a heinous, shameful act, which is extramarital relationship. فَإِنْ فَعَلْنَا فَاهْجُرُوهُنَّ فِي الْمَضَاجِعِ. If they do so, then abandon them in their beds. وَاضْرِبُوهُنَّ ضَرْبًا غَيْرَ مُبَرِّحٍ, and then strike them, but a non-injurious strike. فَإِنْ أَطَعْنَكُمْ, if they obey you, فَلَا تَبْغُوا عَلَيْهِنَّ سَبِيلًا. Okay? So the hadith, which is narrated by Bukhari, by Muslim, Nasa'i, Tirmidhi, Ibn Majah, Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and many narrators of hadith, it says striking. So we cannot change it. We cannot say, no, Quran did not say strike them or hit them. It says. But what type of striking? It's symbolic. It is symbolic. It is non-injurious. So that is the second opinion, my friends. Okay? Now, we come, and the second, we come to the third opinion here, my friends. The third opinion, third interpretation of this verse in the Quran. The third interpretation, which I subscribe to the third opinion, is that this verse does exist in the Quran. It is not abrogated. But my friend, this verse was for a specific society, specific culture, specific time, specific incident. The commentators on the Quran say, this verse came down because one of the Ansar brought his daughter to the Prophet. He said, Ya Rasulullah, Messenger of God, look at my daughter. I gave her to a man. I gave my daughter in marriage to a man, and see what he did with her. See the bruises on her body. So the Prophet was very upset. So commentators say this verse came to say you have no right to strike or hit your wife in a violent way, leaving bruises on their body. You have no right. It has to be moderate. If worse come to worse, and there is the only way to save the family from disintegration, especially when you have kids and you don't want to divorce your wife and she doesn't want to divorce you, her husband, then this is the way to curb their attitude, their unchastity, their bad behavior. This is the way. So it did not come. This verse is not universal, my friends. Number one. This verse does not mean that we can use it any time, any age, any culture, any society. Because many of the things that the Prophet himself did, he did these things 1400 years ago. We don't do them today. One of them is polygamy. Polygamy was very common. The Prophet himself, all his companions. We cannot find a single companion or even a member of the household of the Prophet who did not practice polygamy. Does that mean now Muslims, Muslim men have to practice polygamy? Doesn't have to. Doesn't have to, because it does not work here. It's not a practical. It is not a practical for our time. We live not only here in America and Europe, even in Saudi Arabia, even in the Middle East, even in Muslim countries, even in Pakistan, even in Afghanistan, even in Africa, even in all these countries, in Egypt. Today, women are different. And marriage is not a slavery, my friends. Maybe in the past they treated the institution of marriage as an institution of slavery. Maybe a man treated his wife as a slave. Maybe when he married her, he thought that he purchased this person. Nowadays, it's different. It's different. It's not slavery. And we should stay away from violence. Domestic violence is unacceptable. Unacceptable, unacceptable. We can't condone it. The Prophet himself did not condone it. I will come and show you how the Prophet did not strike any one of his wives. See, he stayed away from them. I just read Sahih al-Bukhari. The Prophet stayed away from his wives for 1 month. And there is a long story, I'm going to explain it in the future. regarding chapter 99, Surah Al-Tahrim. Surah Al-Tahrim mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari, chapter 66, Surah Al-Tahrim. How some of the wives of the Prophet, they conspired against him and they created a big problem. But he never struck any one of them. Never hit any one of them. Anas says, I was serving the Prophet 11 years. He never raised his hand to strike a wife or even a servant or any person unless he fights in the battlefield. He carries the sword. That's the only time I see the Prophet raises his hand. So this is the sunnah of the Prophet. The sunnah of the Prophet, that he did not strike. And then the Prophet himself says, this is Bukhari here. This is Bukhari. قال عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال لا يجلد أحدكم امرأته جلد العبد ثم يجامعها في آخر اليوم. One should not whip his wife as he whips a slave and then he wants to be with her at the end of the day, to sleep with her. That should not happen. Again, other hadith. This is Mustadrak al-Wasa'il, the hadiths of the family of the Prophet, Ahlul Bayt. The Prophet, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم, أنه قال, إني أتعجب, I am astonished, of a man ممن يضرب امرأته وهو بالضرب أولى منها. Of a man who hits his wife, but he is more deserving of that hitting and that discipline. He is more deserving than her. ولا تضربوا نساءكم بالخشب فإن فيه القصاص. Do not discipline your wife or hit your wife with wood or something else, because there is retribution in that. فأي رجل, Rasulullah says, فأي رجل لطم امرأته لطمة. If any person strikes on her face, strikes his wife on her face, أمر الله عز وجل مالك خازن النيران فلطمه على حر وجهه 70 لطمة. God will order the chief of the fire, Malik, to strike him 70 times. وأي رجل منكم وضع يده على شعر امرأة مسلمة, pulls her hair of any female, whether his wife or not his wife, سمر كفه بمسامير من نار. His hands on the day of judgment, his palms are going to be nailed with a fiery nails. So this is the tradition of the Prophet. This is unacceptable nowadays. Some people, when they hit their wives and you ask them why, he says it's in the Quran. They find it as a license to exercise violence, physical violence against their wives. Family is based on love, on care, on sacrifice. If you take these things out, then it's not a family. It's not a family. If you take love out of family, if you take respect, if you take togetherness, if you take compassion, rahmah and mawaddah, if you take it out of this family, then it's not a family. I can't imagine a husband and wife fighting. She strikes him or he strikes her, and there is domestic violence between them, and then they can go back to normal life. Life would not go back to normal life, friends. Believe me, trust me. Even if we have the slightest incident of violence, domestic violence, life would not go back. So we have to be careful. This verse happened in the history. At that time, maybe that society okayed it, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. But now, this is suspended. And we have, in the fiqh, in Islamic jurisprudence, we have some laws that are fixed. They don't change over the time. And some of them are variables and changeable. They change according to the circumstances, according to the time, according to the society, according to the family, according to the law of the land. So here we understand from verse 34 in chapter 4 that domestic violence is not acceptable, and And the Prophet never did that. None of our Imam did that. And they forbid us from practicing this. However, in some cases, it happened to stop something more gross and more terrible from happening. We should take discipline out. Family is the institution of cooperation and mutual understanding. Tonight could be, my friends, Laylatul Qadr. So those of you who started on a Friday, the month of Ramadan on a Friday, tonight is the first night of Qadr. So you would do the A'mal. As a precaution, we do the A'mal, but tomorrow, inshallah, we will do the A'mal right after the lecture, after 10 p.m., inshallah. May Allah bless you. May Allah protect you. Remember us, remember the Muslimin, remember the entire mankind in your prayers during these holy nights. And tomorrow, for 3 nights, we're going to dedicate the lecture to the life and legacy of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, Ali ibn Abi Talib, alayhi salatu wassalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.